Hi folks, welcome back to Northern Canada. Another lovely mid-February day. Temperature has just risen above zero. Nice blue sky, sun is shining. Well, what more could you ask for in the middle of winter? Certainly makes winter more bearable. So I've got another rifle to show you. And this is another Flintlock. Let's go take a look. First things first. The ramrod is all the way in the barrel, past the loaded mark, so this gun is not loaded and is safe. We'll replace the ramrod. There we go, put her on the table where you can see her. You notice I've gone incredibly posh and I've put the dog blanket on the table. I hope you appreciate this effort. Anyway, what we got here is a Lyman Great Plains rifle. It is a replica, a fairly close replica of the Hawken rifle. That was the favorite of the mountain men and the wagon train settlers who traveled across America to California, Washington and Oregon before the American Civil War. Rifles like this were made in St. Louis, Missouri, by people such as the Hawken brothers, Samuel and Jacob, who moved there from the east, where they used to make the longer Pennsylvania and Kentucky long rifles that you've all seen in the Davy Crockett films. Well, anyway, the Hawken is different in several respects. It's got a much shorter barrel, a thicker barrel to shoot a heavier caliber bullet, and that would be because of the different type of game that you would find on the prairies in the central states. Also, there was two-legged predators that you wanted to be able to defend yourself against. This rifle is a 50 caliber, and 50 caliber would be the starting point. A very thick barrel would allow you to rebore it or freshen it several times as the rifle wore away. The barrel would corrode. These things weren't super well looked after, and so they were built with that in mind, which is why the barrel is so heavy. It's an octagon barrel, 32 inches, and it's quite a substantial piece of metal hanging out the front. That's why it's only got a half stock. It doesn't need support all the way down. Looking at the other end of the stock, you see the Crescent butt plate. Now this is very typical of guns of that period, and it requires a different shooting technique to what most guns use today. This Crescent does not fit in your shoulder. It actually fits in your upper arm between your bicep and your shoulder joint, and as such it gives a very firm anchorage to the gun and makes a very steady shooting platform. It's also a very thin profile, so it fits into that slot of your body very well. It's got a large drop. The drop is this measurement here, parallel to the bore. And in actual fact, you would slightly lay the gun across your upper chest when you were shooting. It's too far to lean over and try to get your cheek on the stock here. So yeah, like I said, a totally different technique for shooting this. It works quite well. It gives a steady platform if you're on horseback or in a bouncing wagon. There's several things you should know about this gun. This gun was the very first Flintlock that I bought, and I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and there was a few problems associated with this particular gun. Number one was the sights. The original sights had a rear sight which fitted here, and at 25 yards this thing was shooting 2 feet low. Well, obviously that's unacceptable, so I experimented with a couple of types of rear sights, and I could not get it any better than shooting 6 inches low at 25 yards. I'd even filed the front sight down almost to the barrel. So I scrapped him and I bought some Lyman target sights. It has a globe front sight with a, I don't know if you can see, hold it up to the light, you can see the insert for the globe there. It's a circle which you would circle the bull for target shooting. And on the rear we've got a proprietary Lyman sight, which is a tang mounted sight, adjustable for windage and elevation. This is a Lyman rifle, and this is a Lyman sight. It's supposed to fit this rifle. Hey, look at this, Mr. Lyman. I had to shim it with some washers to make it parallel to the bore, to make it work properly. So maybe you should look at your quality control a bit there. Other problems with this rifle were the trigger. The original Lyman trigger was very unpredictable, had a very gritty feel, and the pull would vary from virtually nothing to about 10 pounds, and that's unacceptable. So I replaced it with a Davis trigger. They're available from the US. They're a pretty low cost item and well worth it. If you have one of these guns and you got problems with the trigger, just get the Davis triggers, because you can play around with the Lyman forever and still not get it to work. The next thing was the lock. Well, the lock did not work properly. The geometry was wrong. The flint actually hit the frizzen too low down, way down here. It had a horrible coil spring on the inside instead of the proper leaf spring. There was no provision for positively locking the flint in the jaws, and it was just lucky. It was just horrible. It had some fake engraving, didn't look the part. So I experimented with it for a while, and then I thought, well, to hell with it, and I bought this L&R lock from out of the States, and it's more period correct, does a much better job, and although it's not super fast, it's not as fast as the Pedersoli Mortimer, it is very good and a huge improvement. So anyway, after changing the trigger, the lock and the sights, we've got it shooting fairly well. Another quality control aspect with this gun here, I don't know if you can see, is that the vent hole is not in the center of the pan, and it's rather high, and what that means is that you get sporadic ignition. Sometimes the gun doesn't go off, you just get a flash in the pan, it won't ignite the main charge. So what I have to do is I have to heap the powder up against the hole to make sure that it actually goes in the hole. I've also drilled the hole out to make it bigger. Putting powder up against the hole is not a thing you want to do, but in this case, to get this gun to fire on a regular basis, I have to do that. It slows the lock time down, but whatever, that's what we got to do to make it go. What else can I say about this gun? Not much really. It's got the two wedges that you drive out, and then you can remove the barrel to clean it. Yeah, I think that's it. What I'm going to do now is put the GoPro camera in its waterproof cover, and we'll do some shooting, but the sound is going to be terrible, so I'm going to add the sound on later. Anyway, I'm going to shut it down for a minute, and I'll get back to you in part 2. Okay, welcome back to part 2, and we're going to fire this thing. Right, so we're going to load it with 70 grains of 2F black powder straight into the measuring flask there. You'll notice there's a different measuring flask to last time with the pedestal rifle. That's because I like to have a separate shooting bag for the 50 caliber rifle, so that I just have to pick the bag up and go. These are the thicker patches made out of pillow ticking. This rifle prefers a .490 ball. It started on its way with a short starter. There we go. Now the range rod. And she's a bit of a tight fit because of some fouling in the barrel from the previous shot that I've taken. So we'll remove the frizzen cover, charge the pan, put lots in this one because of the unreliable ignition from the off-center vent hole. So gun's on full cock, and we're going to set the rear trigger, and we're going to fire the gun with the front trigger. Just get her lined up, and here we go. Krang, bang, crash, wallop. Lots of smoke, great stuff. And so we'll just clear out the vent hole quickly, and let's do it again. Yeah, you bet. So pre-measured charge in an old film container, 35mm. Remember that? It's not too many years ago, is it? So tip that straight down. Patch, once again, soaked in neat's foot oil. It's important to use natural oils, whether they're vegetable or animal based, and definitely not petroleum oils, which forms a thick black tar when it's used with black powder. Once again, a range rod, a bit easier that time. Prime the pan, shove lots in. Close frizzen. Sit myself down. Gun on full cock, set the trigger. Gun will fire with the front trigger. There we go. Lots of smoke, eh? Quite a distinctive aroma. Sulphur. Anyway, it is good fun. And there we are. That is the Lyman Great Plains rifle, which is a reasonably good replica of the Hawken rifle from the 1830s onwards period.